I think it's totally valid because for someone who's wanting to attempt a natural birth, this is a matter of, am I going to be able to have a baby naturally, or am I going to have to go through major surgery?
So if you find out your baby's breech and you're kind of towards 34, 35 weeks where it's like, starting to be go time, what are some things as a doula that you step in, you're like, okay, it's time to get to work?
But I want you to talk about that, because that night when you left her office and you went home and she gave you a whole protocol and you did everything to a T and you went through it, you had an emotional release.
Hi mamas, my name is Megan Norcus and welcome to Our Virtual Village. Starting this podcast was inspired by a local mom group that I went to during my pregnancy and postpartum journey. Connecting with and relating to other moms was a major key for me as I was navigating all the new things that come with being a new mom. So my goal with this podcast is to bring those conversations and stories from my community to a virtual platform, and that's gonna bless moms everywhere. I'm so excited. My hope is that as you listen to this episode, you can hear from and learn about the common struggles that other moms are having in the trenches of motherhood with you, and feel encouraged because you're not momming alone. We are all winging it at this mom thing, and we can all learn from and help each other. So we're excited to have you as part of our village, and let's dive into the conversation. Well, I'm super excited to dive into today's conversation because it's been a huge part of my life. We're going to be really diving into what happens when a baby is breech, which is not the ideal position for vaginal birth. It's actually kind of controversial topic in a way because everybody kind of approaches it and thinks about this topic differently, but I have none other than Olivia Martinez, who is an amazing doula. She's my doula, but I share her with a lot of the community. You have such an amazing reputation. You're such a blessing to so many people, and especially me through some of my different wild twists and turns. But yeah, I mean, you do placenta work, you're a birth doula, all of the things. You host support groups, you serve the community in many ways. You also now are part owner of a clothing brand from Modern Birth Threads with adorable clothes that are more birth themed and stuff. So you kind of do it all, actually.
Yeah, my whole life revolves around all of this.
Yeah, which is great. So that's why we have you here. Yeah. So welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Always helping me talk through my birth stories. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. Just to kind of dive right into it, I actually have had 2 breech babies now, which from my understanding is extremely rare. Wow. Pat on the back. Great job, Megan. But yeah, so it's been really wild navigating both of them. You have been there with me through both. We'll kind of dive into what the difference was, how I navigated it all. Really, this podcast is for anyone who doesn't know how to navigate, their baby being breached. Maybe if that's a concern you have for later in pregnancy or different things like that. So we'll just start out kind of with the basics. What in the world does the word breech even mean? What position should baby be in at what time during pregnancy? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like in the mainstream medical system, breech is kind of just another, it's just another thing. Nobody is educated on what it is, why it happens, how you can potentially try to get baby to flip. They're just kind of your baby's breeching, we're gonna schedule a C-section and this is it. And it's so hard because people don't know that there's other options. Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually just reading on that, as I was preparing for this, is most Florida hospitals won't even allow a planned breech birth. And I know it actually varies by state. That's why I say this is controversial, because some people drive to a different state for a vaginal birth if they have a breech baby. Things get crazy when, really the most vulnerable time of pregnancy, it's towards the end. Baby's supposed to turn, what's the normal timeline for a baby turning head down?
Babies can flip around just all the way up until even 35, 36 weeks. I feel it's really only worrisome when it's around that time if baby is consistently staying head down and it seems there's not enough room in the uterus for the baby to flip. But I mean, we've even seen babies flip at 38, 39, sometimes even later than that. It just depends on the size of the baby and how much room there is in the uterus and body balancing. It's really complex. But ideally, yes, you would like to have your baby head down around 36-ish weeks, just for one, peace of mind. And that way, 2, baby can kind of navigate the pelvis, head down, and find how to get activated and engaged. well before entering into your labor window.
For sure. Well, because the baby is actively getting bigger.
Yes,
Their head is
exactly.
getting bigger. Everything's happening so fast, like towards the end of pregnancy. So, the sooner the better, obviously. But yeah, it's definitely very complex because I mean, that's not even a fear or something I've ever thought of. Like when thinking of having a baby, I'm like, oh, I hope they're not breech, or I hope they're in the right position. It's not something that like you said, I don't really feel like people are knowledgeable about until it's like happening. Like, oh, wow, you're 34 weeks. Like it's crunch time. We might have to schedule a cesarean. Like that's when people find out. And they're like, what does breech mean? It's like we should be talking about this.
Totally, because it does start so much sooner in your pregnancy.
For sure. 100%.
Like people who are working at a desk 24/7 for their job, just like a 9 to 5 up until 39 weeks. I mean, yeah, that's got to be brutal on your body. And so then you would have a higher chance of having a breech baby.
Yeah.
And so if the family has this knowledge and information about how that can negatively impact your pregnancy and then the baby positioning, sometimes you can do different things to prevent that.
Totally. Yeah. Be super proactive.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's just kind of what I wanted to cover first is, yes, it's kind of crazy if your baby is breech because if you're seeing like a hospital or normal, like in the medical system for your delivery, you will be just like scheduled for a C-section.
Sure.
They don't really give you a ton of options. Yeah. In the state of Florida, where we are, unfortunately.
I know.
There's a lot of things that are great about Florida.
We get crazy laws here that we don't love.
So wild, but there could be more in other places. I'll take it. But yeah, so in a hospital setting, if your baby's breech, you're pretty much just going to be scheduled for a cesarean. Yeah. A lot of times it's not too late to transfer, but if someone's been seeing a doctor the whole time, didn't even know they should be researching other options, to kind of switch gears at that point would be probably pretty crazy. Same with a home birth midwife. So that was the route I was going, but you actually need a very specific type of license to be a specific kind of midwife to do home birth vaginal breech delivery.
Yes.
Which I also did not know.
Yes. So in the state of Florida, you have to be a certified nurse midwife to legally be able to deliver a breech baby, as well as like twins births, like higher risk, things that are more complicated. Legally to be able to do that with your license, you have to have a CNM do that. Unfortunately, in our area, 95% of those midwives all work in hospitals. Yep. So then it would be a hospitalist performing an ECV and then delivering your baby instead of a licensed midwife, which is what all of the midwives in Jacksonville are. Right. To be able to deliver your baby at home. So, I mean, it's a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I remember looking into it with my first pregnancy, because we actually found out she was breech when I was 41 weeks and already kind of in early labor, which was a wild ride. But so we were like, okay, well, is there anybody we can just go to and have them get my baby out like this week? That's kind of wild to transfer care at 41 weeks. But if it's what I needed to do to have a home birth, I was down. And there's literally 3 in the state of Florida that do home birth. So
none that are close to Jacksonville.
No, not with driving distance and early labor. So again, that was kind of crazy. But so nobody local here in Northeast Florida. It has to be very specific. So that's why it's good to know these things ahead of time. Yes. Even with ECV, so that would be like an external cephalic version. A lot of times it's done in a hospital too. Some people even get an epidural for it to be done. So you're completely relaxed. I mean, that was like something you would choose to do a lot later in pregnancy. So knowing who your provider is going to be, knowing your priorities, if you want to avoid all these things, it's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way ahead of time.
Absolutely. And yeah, with the ECVs, they usually in our area of Jacksonville, it's all done in the hospital. And unfortunately, providers are just not actually educated on like the body balancing part of it, which is kind of the most important part when you're trying to flip a baby inside of a woman's very pregnant body. Yeah. So yeah, the ECV can be traumatic. It can be not effective. It can be pretty costly. And then of course there's always risks that come along with that. So like with an ECV, the main risk is one, that your baby doesn't tolerate the ECV well, but then also that your water could break. So if you're planning to have a home birth and you go into a hospital and you elect for the ECV and you get a provider who is not unfortunately skilled in that and your water breaks, you're going to have to be admitted and have your baby in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that's just not an ideal situation for people who are trying to have a out of hospital birth.
Right.
And then here in Jacksonville, people who want to have an ECV that is, one, effective, and two, gentle, and, you know, moves along with the mom's own pace, you would have to drive five hours.
Yeah, 4 or 5 hours
to go find someone who is
West Palm
actually skilled in this. And it's just very unfortunate that there's not more people out there who have this skill and actively practice it, because we wouldn't be having these breech C-section numbers that we do now, you know?
Yeah. And just to kind of rewind a little bit, it's really become so rare because I'm not going to probably explain this like super, super well. So maybe, I don't know, I suggest you doing your own research, but just in my own research, I found that there was a study done, I think it was back in like the year 2000, and they were comparing breech vaginal deliveries versus C-sections and like how babies did afterwards. And the data that was released was actually kind of skewed. So it went, once they like released this information, it looked like the cesarean delivered babies did a lot better, and the breech delivery looked so like crazy. Like the vaginal delivery of breech babies looked like it was much more dangerous. And so that information was released. That's when hospitals started just being like, you know, kind of pulling that off of even the table of options.
Yes.
And then they went back and looked at the data, and a lot of information was included in the vaginal delivery of breech babies, including preterm babies, surprise breech babies, you know, things where those numbers shouldn't have really been included. And when you go back and look at the numbers, it's actually super comparable. The like actual like safety of a cesarean breech delivery versus vaginal breech delivery is actually so close that it's like not worth having major surgery and a scar for the rest of your life and all the complications that come along with it, when you could be like either just educated, like, you know, as a OB or a midwife, if it was legal in Florida to deliver a breech baby vaginally, that actually could be like a really viable option. But at that point, it was like not being taught much anymore, wasn't really in hospital protocol. And so it just kind of became this super taboo, controversial, as I said, kind of, you know, subject where it's just like a one-way ticket to the OR when you find out your baby's breech, unfortunately, in Florida.
It's crazy because a lot of, like, even like our midwives, they everybody gets training on it, but it's such a small amount of time. So providers are not confident in the skills that they've learned and attained to actually be practicing it, on top of course, the liability of their, you know, malpractice insurance and everything that's not going to allow them to do that legally with their license. So it's like, one, there needs to be education on it, because it is, matter of fact, breech birth is just a variation of normal birth. And it's been like that since the beginning of time. We've developed different kinds of tactics and education around how to handle it, which is why we are seeing an improved numbers, and it's not as scary and detrimental as it used to be. You know, babies used to die and moms used to die back in the day because there wasn't any information on it. So thankfully it is moving and trending in the right direction. We just are kind of like at a halt in the birth community because legally everyone's kind of tied down. There's not much else that anybody,
which is pretty wild that the law you know, can get in the way of how you choose to birth your baby.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another day. So I guess we can just kind of bridge right into, what do you do like as the mom? Like, what are some things you can do to be proactive, to like keep, I don't want to say keep control, because you don't really have control. For sure. I mean, that's what I've learned is like, it's one of the main things that I don't have control of, no matter all of the proactive things you can do. I think that was really probably one of the most difficult things on me mentally with my second pregnancy. Well, just, I mean, I already mentioned with my first pregnancy, I actually didn't have any other ultrasounds after my anatomy scan. I had a terrible migraine after that. And I'm like, you know what? If that's the only one that required, that's the only one I'm going to do. So I never checked on baby's position at the end of pregnancy, which if you go back and listen to my birth story, that's something my husband and I still kind of toss up. It's just like, I guess that's how it was supposed to be. But I do recommend just confirming the position. There's a lot of different schools of thought. You know, I have a friend who does no ultrasounds, and she's like, well,
for sure,
if the baby's baby's breech, then we would figure it out at that point. And, that's how it's supposed to be. That, is definitely a school of thought.
That's very brave.
Very courageous. She calls it her 1800s pregnancy. She's like, it's just, we wouldn't have known, a long time ago. So why find out now? For me, I like to be educated and like, plan ahead and all of that kind of thing.
Totally.
I'm definitely not like a type A person, but with something so important, I want to know what to expect. So with that big surprise, when I was 41 weeks with my first, with my second, I'm like, we're doing an ultrasound very often, at least just a little like butterfly, super easy one we can do in the midwife's office just to be see where the baby's head is. It'll be 2 seconds. I tend to be more crunchy. I'm not a fan of like a bunch of interventions, but it's important to me to have a vaginal birth. So my second time around, I'm like, I kind of want to be super on top of it and just know so we can plan ahead, because after 2 C-sections, things would get really complex. So I really wanted to have a VBAC.
And realistically, you ended up having a total of 3 or 4 more
a couple extra,
super short ultrasounds.
And for my
in-house,
peace of mind and stuff, super worth it. But totally. That's what I was going to say is was the hardest thing mentally for my second pregnancy is wanting to be proactive, wanting to do all these things we're about to talk about, because there are ways you can prepare the body and create space and encourage the baby to flip. And, there are definitely like a laundry list of items you can do. But the hardest thing for me mentally specifically was doing all the items and want to be proactive and wanting to check all the boxes and wanting to be smart and think ahead and all of those things, while also not wanting to stress and you can't have tension in your body and you need to be getting relaxed. Great sleep. And I'm like, it's like such an oxymoron, so that was really, really tough. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think it's totally valid, because for someone who's wanting to attempt a natural birth, this is a matter of, am I going to be able to have a baby naturally, or am I going to have to go through major surgery? It's not like a small, it's not like a sunny side up baby where it's like your baby still is going to come out. It's going to be harder, but you can still have a vaginal delivery. This is like a major change. And so I have chill bumps.
It's like, it's crazy.
It's night or day difference. And it can be very, very stressful, and navigating that while also actively trying to relax and trust your body, especially if you with your first pregnancy going into your second, it's like, you wanted nothing to do. You wanted to trust your body more than anything. Right. But at the same time, you just know that you are completely out of control. Yeah. And that's birth. That's motherhood. That is, a hard lesson. I just really honestly had to trust God from the very beginning. I knew this would be a pregnancy. My second pregnancy, I knew it would be one of just like trusting God, because I knew I was going to do a VBAC and just like plan and just walk in faith that it was all going to work out. And then I just had to trust that she'd be in the right position. Right. I would just just like very vulnerable, and like honestly just having faith that God was going to do it was the only thing that got me through, because there's really only so much I can do. We're going to go through the things that you can attempt, but I think ultimately just surrender. It's like, it's going to go how God wants your story to go, and he's going to write it. So that was the hardest part for sure. So from how many weeks were you when we found out that baby was Breech?
The second time?
Yeah.
In my second pregnancy, I think we did, actually at my anatomy scan right around, I think I did like 18, 19 weeks, something like that, which is fine. Yeah. It's like super early. Like that's not the position baby is going to be in. But I remember her, I'm like asking like, so like, just like trying to be so casual. I'm like, so like, I know it doesn't matter, but like what position is she in? And she's like, well, right now it looks like she's kind of like sitting on her feet, which is literally how my first daughter was, all the way up until 41 weeks. And it's kind of crazy too. I'll mention there's different kinds of breech. So you can be frank breech where their feet are all the way up by their head. They're like literally folded in half. My first daughter and second for a while were sitting on their feet. That's called footling breech. There's like one leg could be up, one leg could be like all different kind of ways. And they're all like different
levels of complicated.
Some are easier to turn while they're in the womb, but harder to birth. Some are easier to birth, but harder. Like it's all a toss up. But so at my anatomy scan, she did say, oh, she's sitting on her little feet. I'm like, why are you acting like that's cute? Like, I'm mad. Like cute. That's awesome. So that was, that doesn't necessarily count as far as positioning goes. But then I think the one we were going to do, I think it was 34 weeks.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think it was 34 weeks. And you're like, I'm going to come, like baby's going to already be head down. We're just believing for it.
And that was because we were like, ideally we'd like baby head down around 36 weeks. So
Yeah.
let's just give ourselves 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, that way, peace of mind, no need for like extreme stress right away. And I think that's why we all were like, let's just be proactive and just take a peek at 34.
As you're saying that, I think we actually did 32. I think that might have even been at 32 weeks, because I ended up going to South Florida at 36 weeks, and I feel like there was a couple.
Yeah.
So I think it was 32 weeks,
Sorry.
which was
False information.
Yeah. Well, I think we were like being ultra proactive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one who said 34, but as you're saying that, I'm like, no, because around 34, 35 is when I was already like, dang,
Yeah.
I'm like looking at probably getting this baby flipped.
Again, that was because your first experience of finding out at 41 weeks that she was breached, there's little to no time you were also in labor.
Yeah.
So this time it's like time can be our friend here.
For sure.
And there's nothing wrong with just getting an ultrasound and finding out. So 32 weeks, we found out baby was breech.
Yep.
And
which is still super early. We
Totally.
have time. We can encourage baby, all of those things. I will say, for the first 32 weeks of my pregnancy, things that I for sure recommend and just like, you know, feel like people should be doing earlier on is chiropractic care for sure is like number one. I know a lot of people, if they find out their baby's breech like later in pregnancy at 32, 34, like, oh no, like what can help? And people are like, you should go to the chiropractor, but there's a lot to be done, you know, a lot of releasing with ligaments and I mean, your spine and your pelvis and all of the different things that go into making sure baby's in the right position can be covered by chiropractic care. So even if you're listening to this and you haven't even conceived your baby, but you're thinking about walking into, you know, a natural birth and things, chiropractic care 100% all the way should be already be done. Also, even stuff like, you know, massages, CST, like just getting rid of tension in your body.
For sure.
Any type of body work for sure, I think is super important. All of pregnancy, like outside of specifically talking about
problematic,
like breech baby and positioning, chiropractic care, body work, all of that. So I already was doing all of that. You can also start inversions, you know, pretty early on in pregnancy, like 20 weeks. Yeah. Which is pretty much just going upside down off the side of your couch. So I started doing that. And so, yeah, that's just overall for good positioning. Like you said, even sunny side up, like where baby's face is forward, but they're still head down. It can help with that because that would be a harder labor. So even, you know, outside of the breech conversation, these things, you know, are beneficial to do for sure.
Yeah. Ideally, the ideal position for baby to be to have the, you know, I don't even want to say easiest birth, but the most ideal birth is having your baby head down and having their face looking at your spine. Yeah. So the back of their head is kind of along the front side of your belly. But of course, that's just one of the many positions that babies can be in. So they can be in all different kinds of ways. And like you're saying, like spinning babies, body balancing, body work, chiropractor, all of these things can kind of help with malpositioned babies, which then just lead to an easier pregnancy as baby continues to grow and your pelvis continues to grow, and your uterus continues to grow. But specifically when you have bumps in the road, like a malpositioned breech baby, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, for sure. So that's when it kind of all hits the fan and you're like, okay, now like the timeline is getting shorter. And you know, there's a school of thought where people are like, if baby wants to be breeched, then that just is what it is. So you can do all of the things to encourage it, but there's actually people who are against ECV, which I did say what it stands for, but that's actually manually flipping the baby like from the outside through like massage techniques and things. There's some people who are just like against it, like babies in whatever position they're in, which to each their own. I mean, having a natural birth is just super important to me.
For sure.
So as long as baby obviously was safe, I was willing to try like anything. So if you find out your baby's breech and you're kind of towards 34, 35 weeks where it's like, you know, starting to be go time, what are some of those things that people kind of, you know, we talked about being proactive, like chiropractic care throughout pregnancy and stuff. But now when things hit the fan, timeline's getting shorter. What are some things as a doula that you step in, you're like, okay, it's time to get to work.
There's a lot of things. You'll spend a lot of time upside down if you find out that your baby is breech.
I can attest to that. I think half my life was lived upside down after 32 weeks pregnant. I actually even got an inversion table because I was doing inversions off the side of the couch,
which is really crucial.
I know.
It saves you a lot of time and energy.
I sent you a picture one day. I'm like, I upgraded my setup because the Spinning Babies website, which is a whole organization
Yeah.
that is all about helping babies be in the right position, highly recommend their
Mm-hmm.
website for literally everything to do with pregnancy,
Yes.
but specifically breech babies. They're like, oh, do inversions, multiple times a day. They call it the breech tilt. So they recommend taking an ironing board, propping it up against your couch, using pillows. I will say, any time doing that after 32 weeks pregnant, it's hard to get upside down.
Yeah.
I'm
you
like,
need support.
I'm like, I'm so glad I've been with my husband for like 13 years and he loves me because I looked crazy.
And it was an everyday thing.
Yeah. I mean, like literally multiple times a day. I'm
Yeah.
like, babe, hurry up. I have to get on the ironing board.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like super pregnant, getting headaches sometimes,
For
just all those
sure.
super pregnant things. And like trying to climb upside down onto an ironing
Most people
board.
have trouble at like 32 weeks getting in out of bed.
Yeah, exactly.
So like getting upside down on an ironing board
Yeah.
and staying there for 60 seconds. I mean, that is.
No, not 60 seconds. It like recommends like 10 to 12 minutes or something. It's pretty wild.
You need to have someone there for you.
Alex is like my husband. He's like, don't do this when I'm
No,
not
seriously.
home. I'm like, nope, I
It's
won't.
like a liability. Physically cannot.
Yeah.
No need to worry.
But yeah, so I'm sorry. I think I
No,
interrupted
you're
you.
good.
But yeah,
You're good.
so all the things, spending a lot of time upside down for
Spending a
sure.
lot of time upside down. So then also you're going to be doing like tons of body work. So like CST, acupuncture, chiropractic care, massage can be really, really helpful. Deep tissue massage. You did do deep tissue massage, right?
Yeah, some.
Like towards the end of your pregnancy after you knew that she was breech.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like it made a big difference?
She ended up
It's
flipping,
relaxing.
so it's hard, like because I did end up, spoiler alert, I did end up getting ECV at the very end. It was like the final straw. I'm like, I'll
Right.
do anything. And so I really wanted to be careful, even with how I posted on social media and even, for myself. I don't want to be like, oh, this midwife flipped my baby. Like, I truly believe it was all of the other things I did that created the space and like, was part of the journey. And then I just like needed that extra nudge for some reason, which I guess we can just kind of talk about like, why is all of that even important? What is the cause of a breech baby? For me, we're going to find out soon because I'm going to do an ultrasound. I think it must be just be like the shape of my uterus where my baby is getting nestled up in one corner of my uterus and don't want to flip. But a lot of times why the body work works is because it has to do with all of like the ligaments and things like that.
For sure. Yeah. There's people who, like I said, will be sitting at a desk all day long and don't have a lot of like movement in their pelvis during their pregnancy. That can create a breech baby. I've also seen stories of babies moms who are carrying a toddler on their hip for, their whole pregnancy. It's kind of like not allowing that one hip to have space. And so then the baby just assumes that the other half of the uterus is for them. That can create a malpositioned baby. Sitting back and not sitting forward in your chair can even cause like a posterior baby, breech baby. And then of course, like deeper rooted things like we were talking about for like in your situation, like it could be an oddly shaped uterus. Some people have like an actual wall in the middle of their uterus and it can create that heart-shaped uterus, which then would like limit space for allowing baby to actually turn. Scar tissue. Some people have like some weird scar tissue that just doesn't allow their pelvis and uterus to kind of have enough space. And that's the thing too, is that it's hard because there's all of these things that can create a breech baby or a malpositioned baby that you don't really have any control over. It's kind of just like the way the cookie crumbles. That's how your body is set up. So then it's like, what are we going to do from here to allow for that space to come back to allow baby to turn? Because that's what you do to turn a breech baby is create enough space so the baby has the space to turn. Because if it's not there's no way that they can turn either on their own or with an ECV.
Yeah. Well, even going back to why it was so challenging for me, you're my dualist. These are a lot of the conversations we've had. So I'm like, never like carrying my toddler on my hip. I'm like, how do you do that? It's like such a just natural thing to do is just pick your baby up and put them on their hip. But, just, it took like a hyper awareness that I'm like, was having to be so careful that it didn't like turn into like actual anxiety or like, like stress in my body because the muscle tension and the ligaments and everything you're talking about, any stress on your body, even emotional stress can cause baby to, nestle on one side or the other and not turn. So that was like kind of the challenging part is there are these little things you can keep in mind, but ultimately you can only do what you can do.
But you do have to be really tuned in. You
Mm-hmm.
have to really be mindful and intuitive of like where your baby is and all of the movements that you're making. We just went out of town and we were traveling across a third world country in a car crammed in with suitcases and kids, and
You're like, wait, I'm real pregnant.
and yeah, and I obviously didn't have ultrasound with me because I was on vacation, but I'm 99% sure that one of the days where we were in the car for 8 hours, like my baby flipped breech, because there's just a very distinct feeling of your baby's head being stuck between your ribs.
Yeah.
It's very, and also you can, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years. So when I see a mom's belly, I can almost tell, I'm like, that's not, that looks like a head is sitting up in
Which
your
is
ribs.
so crazy that I like flew under the radar with my first and nobody knew she was breached.
But that's
for
also
41
because
weeks.
that was just your body's natural like baseline.
And she also wasn't flipping back and forth. I think if sometimes I was like, wait, she feels different. Sometimes we would have had like a, you know, like inclination to like maybe check or something. She was also only 5 pounds, so like her head was like tiny.
We thought it was a butt.
So there's a lot of complexities that go into that, but yeah, so there's things you can be doing proactively, and then like you said, more of like the body work and double down on the spinning babies, getting upside down. There's like a whole actual like part of the Spinning Babies website that gives you everything to do when a baby is breached, like
and it's free. It's like out there for the public, and that's what's so crazy to me is like you could find out your baby's breach at 37 weeks and your standard OB is going to be like, all right, let's just go ahead and schedule it. But it's like this website is literally free, and it has every step of what you need to do every second of the day until your baby turns. Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I think that's when the first time I've kind of, because I was being proactive and trying to just like trust and have faith the whole pregnancy. But once I saw for sure she was breached at 32, and then we went back at 34, and like at this point I'm a professional. Like I'm feeling my baby's head. I'm like, I know she's for sure in the same position. I remember just going to get at 34 weeks, we were just going to do another ultrasound just real quickly, and I'm like, she's totally in the same position. I just know it. And she was. And I think when you sent me that link of what to do, like that was the first time I actually felt a wave of like what could be anxiety, but I wasn't gonna let it take over. But I'm just like, I got a lot to do. Like I have to do all of this every day, stand on my head in a pool,
it's a
stand upside down,
job trying to get your baby to
off
turn.
my couch, like do all this homeopathy, do this. I need to schedule a massage. My chiropractor's like, you need to come like twice a week. I'm just like, this is gonna be, while also just preparing to have a baby, and like
for sure
a second baby
and you're
too.
Exhausted.
And I have a toddler, you know, it's just wild. But yeah, so some of those other things, I mean, people are always recommending like, oh, if you tried this, oh, if you tried that, you know, like I've heard even putting like ice on the top of your belly and then like a heating pad on the bottom. I slept like that every night pretty much. After 32 weeks, I'd have a heating pad across me, and I'd go to bed with an ice pack curled up on the top of me. Again, it's like, I just didn't want to be like a psychopath, but I also like didn't want to not do stuff like that. I'm like, what if I just would have put an ice pack on?
No, for sure. People even say like putting a flashlight like low on your belly, or like playing music low on your belly to try to convince your baby to kind of turn. It's just hard because your baby's only going to turn when they're ready. And that's the hard thing, is that you can do all of these things for weeks like Megan did. Weeks and weeks and weeks of actively spending so much time intentionally trying to get your baby to flip, but babies only flip when they're ready. And that's a really hard thing to let go of when you're trying to prepare for a natural birth, knowing that something else could change your birth.
And I think the letting go is what flips the baby.
Absolutely.
You know, like the ultimate surrender, just being pushed to her absolute edge. I mean, we even have a mutual friend who she had a breech baby, I think up until like 35, 36 weeks. It was about time to be like, all right, this is getting serious. And she was tight specifically on the left side of her body. I think we actually go to the same chiropractor, and they're like, well, sometimes like the left side of your body is more related to like a masculine energy. Like maybe is there any relationships you need to repair with someone masculine? Like, is there anything, like, does that ring a bell? And she actually went home, had a huge emotional release, and had like something that actually she didn't even know until they said that, you know, kind of surfaced. And after that big emotional release, her baby flipped. So like that had nothing to do with sitting at a desk or being upside down, you know? So there's like a whole emotional aspect of it that relates to like tension and
that, I mean, that is body work, because your fascia is like your armor for your whole body, and so it holds on to any kind of like tension, stress, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever it is. And so if it's holding on to that, yeah, your baby's going to be trying to turn and button heads into your stress and your fascia.
For
There's
sure.
no way. So you really do have to, it's emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual. It is like a all or nothing kind of process. So then walk us through for you after we did all of the things for weeks, from 32 weeks until 36 weeks, a whole month.
Including emotional stuff. I mean, there's even another, he's technically like a chiropractor, but he does a lot of like emotional work. It's a total different type of adjustment. I went to that like once, sometimes even twice a week, like multiple times, just being like, this was actually even before it was like getting, too late. Like I think it was maybe around 28, 30 weeks when I was still like just trying to be proactive. I'm like doing all the emotional things too. That's why you'll see me maybe on like social media or even in conversation say like my second pregnancy was so hard on me because it wasn't only, I mean, it was like physically demanding. I had like acid reflux and like some of the, just the annoying things, but like I was also like mentally like battling every day and then like trying to work through any emotional things with anyone masculine in my life. Like call my dad, call my brother, call any male I know. Like, are we good? We got beef. Like, let me make sure we're good. Just trying to release.
You just gotta call them up.
Hit everyone up, No, just kidding. But I was just trying to like make sure there was no loose ends anywhere. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Like I was trying to fully surrender with God, like journaling in the morning every day in my quiet time with God. Like doing all of these things.
You wanted to check all your boxes.
Yeah, which is like kind of how I am anyways. But I'm like, no, I'm having this baby badly.
But you did. And then I feel like you really put in the work for a full month. And I'm sure it was so exhausting and draining.
Yeah. I mean, I would just every night just be like, God, I have so much faith that you could flip this baby tonight in my sleep. Like I truly believe that. I'd have to really check myself because it was very easy to doubt or stress or be like, I should just schedule a freaking C-section. Like how like committed am I?
No, totally.
So
how
like
far do
every
you want to take it?
Yeah, every night before bed I would be like, God, I really believe you could flip this baby. And he's like, okay, I'm still working on you. So he kind of pushed me to my absolute edge. I remember because like you said, you don't want baby to be too big, but also if your water breaks, that's a emergency situation. So you don't want to do it too early. Also, my babies tend to not be big apparently. My first daughter was only 5 pounds at 41 weeks, and even though this baby was measuring slightly bigger, I mean, she wasn't massive. So I'm like, I don't want to go too early, and then they can flip back, like in the other position. So timing it right was really crazy. But I remember going into my 36-week appointment, just being like, I'm pretty sure this baby's still breech. I know the positioning, and we're gonna have to go to South Florida. Which with my first birth, which you can go back and listen to my 2-part like 2-hour long birth story of how crazy it was to find out she was breech and then ultimately have an emergency C-section because labor was progressing really quickly. But one of the options we looked at was doing an emergency like ECV like as fast as possible, which there's someone in South Florida who has a great reputation as far as having a success rate of flipping breech babies. So we had talked to her, but it was just too late to get down there when I was in labor to drive 4 or 5 hours from home. So this time we're like, well, we have her on speed dial now.
There's a deep connection
there was at least like a relationship. We'd had the conversation. She remembered us. Her name's Fadwa at Midwife 360 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Huge blessing. Angel of a woman.
She's an angel.
Like an actual angel, like with healing hands that does like actual miracles, miraculous things. But so we're at like 35, 36 weeks. We kind of like figured that would be a strong option, was us having to travel down there, which I also had a potty training toddler this time. So like, how am I supposed to drive so far from home? But I
mean, these realistically play into like whether you're going to decide to go or not,
or just schedule surgery. You know, again, I'd have to check myself and be
it's not just you; it's like your whole family too.
For sure. I mean, the stress on my marriage and all these different things like come into play, which obviously I'm so grateful to have like the most supportive husband in the world. But it was just pretty wild. We at least called her and we're like, hey, I'm pregnant again. I'm also 35 weeks. Baby still breech. Great to hear your voice again. I'm coming to see you. But we talked to her and she's like, wow, that's just like crazy. Did you ever have an ultrasound to see why this could be? We're just trying to sort through all of it. And, another option, she's a certified nurse midwife. So she's like, you also could just plan to have your baby breech. Yeah. So that's when you kind of have, well, I'll speak from I had to kind of, again, say, how committed am I? Do I have the school of thought where if my baby's breech, there's a reason. So I'm just going to plan a home birth in South Florida, 5 hours from
Right.
home. Or do I want to try to flip this baby and come home and have a home birth? Do I want to try to flip the baby? And then if my water breaks, I have an emergency baby in South Florida.
And it's hard because with birth, you have to have plan A, B, and C, and D. And then specifically with a malpositioned baby too, it's like, well,
Things
this could happen.
fast.
And then we'd have to pivot. And that's a lot. It's
For
a lot
sure.
of planning.
With a very hormonal, super pregnant woman.
A lot of planning for something that you really can't plan for.
Yeah. Yikes. Ouch.
Dun dun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we were at.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ultimately just planned the trip down there. Looked for different Airbnbs, stuff like that. Had to just like plan ahead. And it's hard because I was also still believing that my baby could flip. Like I still really, not just believing it could happen, but like really having the faith, like, God, please, I want this to be your plan for me to just not even have to think about any of this. So like having the faith that he could just flip the baby, boom, wake up one morning. I'm like, feels different. Let's confirm. And it just happened.
Right.
But also being like, but I have to go by a certain date to have her flipped. So we started just thinking ahead and like, I guess we just need to book an Airbnb. We actually did wait till the very last minute. We're like, let's just go for our ultrasound on Thursday
to confirm.
And we told Fadwa, we're like, but we're probably coming on Saturday to have her flipped, So it was like, still hope. I think we didn't really book and pay for the Airbnb until we had the ultrasound on Thursday and then left on Friday for our appointment Saturday.
But that's another really great option to bring up for information for people who might be in this situation, is that when you work with a provider who is not a hospitalist, who is informed about how autonomous birth is and how breech is a variation of normal, like Fadwa, she was fully on board to try to help you, but she also knows that anything could happen at any time. She's very flexible. Where if you think about if you would have booked an ECV here in Jacksonville with a hospitalist, one, it takes weeks to get in.
Right.
Two, I could assume if you canceled last minute, you're still getting charged. Like there's so many factors that made your experience so different because you chose to work with a CNM who was experienced and wasn't really just like, in it for the money. She really wanted to see your baby flip.
Yeah. Which ultimately was such a blessing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Like literally.
No, totally.
Yeah, she was super flexible. We were like, we're pretty sure we're coming down this week. We'll let you know Thursday for sure. But, we scheduled the ECV. I think it just like varies per like, I don't know, like provider, how they'll do it. I know certain people like a hospitalist or someone in a more corporate setting will try once. And if it doesn't work, then that's it, because it can stress the baby out. So like I get that, which along with most things in the medical like industry and just like in the hospital setting, there's red tape, it's like you have to fall within this parameter, and if not, then you just can't go about it that way. So that's just how it is, in that like setting, unfortunately. So that's why I was like, I just don't really want to schedule it here. I would rather go and she said she would try 2 days in a row. She said she would try on Saturday, and if it didn't work, we can try again on Sunday, which, of course I'm like, no, we're just believing on Saturday it's going to work. Like I had all this faith. We went down there super hopeful, drove down Friday, just took our time, especially with a potty trained toddler, made a bunch of stops, stopped at a little nature park, went on a walk and had our lunch. So I was trying to keep it low stress. Like, this is chill. It's fine. Like, even though I shouldn't be traveling at all and like sitting in a car is the worst position to be in, I'm just going to go for it.
Again, like, I just couldn't imagine how different your story would have been had you been with a hospitalist, because I mean, you got to travel down to West Palm Beach and see iguanas with your toddler on the weekend.
Literally.
And the midwife was like, yeah, we'll try Saturday. If not, we'll try again on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go to the farmer's market after.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so
actually.
chill and calm and respectable. Like, and
for sure.
I just can't believe it.
Yeah. So I mean, no complaints, it's just kind of like crazy that this is my reality, but I was like trying to just keep a good attitude, feeling super hopeful on Friday, woke up Saturday morning, sun was shining. Like I actually remember we saw a double rainbow on the way down. I'm like, okay, this is a sign from God. We're just going to like flip this baby tomorrow. So we went Saturday, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to flip my baby. And she tried multiple times. And it was like kind of just not working. You could tell, I mean, my baby would get kind of like transverse, and then it just, we weren't really feeling much movement. Which was like,
she was like stuck.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so Fadwa recommended us doing like some inversions and just like maybe getting up, walking around, having food, water. We'll try again in a little bit, you know. So, I mean, I would think I was there a total of like 2 or 3 hours. So she would try for like 10, 15 minutes. But like, again, you don't want to stress the baby out. She was monitoring the baby the entire time, heart rate. We also did a few ultrasounds along the way. It depends which way the baby's facing, as to which way she's going to like try to flip them, like clockwise or counterclockwise kind of way. So she would try one way, and then it was pretty painful, honestly. I mean, like, I don't want to, painful is hard. I don't know. Some people get like I said, like an actual epidural for this. So I think I could call it like painful, but definitely super uncomfortable.
To compare it to like a natural birth.
Yeah, it's hard because now that I've given birth naturally, I'm like, oh, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I would say on everybody's pain scale is different. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd say it's a strong 7 or 8, you know.
Yeah,
like
intense and uncomfortable.
Super, yeah, I mean, intense and pretty uncomfortable for sure. But doable, you know, like it wasn't impossible. It was just breathing. And again, it's like you have to just, you can't resist against it, and it's like kind of not your body turning the baby. Yeah, exactly. It's not your body turning the baby, it's like an outside force, you know. So you have to kind of just move with it, breathe with it. So that was definitely, it's just kind of like an interesting thing. I mean, I've seen videos where she literally is just like whoop, and it's just like, wow, the baby flipped, that's crazy. They just need a little encouragement. And I was like just praying that'd be my experience, and day 1 was just like not that way.
Well, you also have to remember that, like, depending on which pregnancy it is, like what your uterus is like this is my 3rd baby, so like my uterus is, she's an old gal, you know.
She's experienced.
I got a lot of room in this uterus for my baby to flip around. So for you, I feel like you've always been like a petite like a person, and then like you carry pretty small as well. So yeah, your uterus probably is not as roomy as other people's. So that video that you're referencing, her uterus probably was just completely different.
It could have been her 3rd baby. I have no idea.
Could have been her 3rd baby.
So yeah, I was just like hoping like, wow, I'm coming to see this miracle angel rainbow person who's just gonna flip my baby. And it was just like clearly not super easy, which is kind of just like a tough pill to swallow. Still trying to stay hopeful and stuff, and maybe, you know, then a wave of like, what am I doing? Like, check the baby. Like, I mean, what? This is wild. Like, is the baby okay? You know, it's like, I'm really kind of putting the baby through this, but she was tolerating it well. So we kept going. And, I mean, you don't want to do too much to your body or to the baby. So she finally was just like, I remember I actually have it on video because my husband was videoing all of this, like hoping we'd get like this miracle.
For you followers.
Yeah.
For you to see one day.
Literally. But I remember I have it on video, and she's like, all right, well, we can try again tomorrow. And I'm just like, the way she said that, I just like, it's like sadness and also rage and also just, you know, like.
But that's, I want you to talk about that, because that night when you left her office and you went home, and she gave you a whole protocol, and you did everything to a T, and you went through it.
It was a lot.
You had an emotional release.
Yeah. That night I was feeling like super sad. My husband and I went and got food after, and was just like swallowing this pill of like, we're going to go back tomorrow. And I would go through moments of like, you know, at least we get to try again tomorrow. And if not, like, you know, we'll see. And then I would go through, you know, it's almost like the stages of grief, you know, like grieving that it didn't just happen. It's like my birth plan could be crumbling. This could be a bump in the road, but a perfect birth. Like, I didn't really know at this time. So that was super vulnerable. I was also really sore. Like, physically, I was like having Braxton Hicks contractions. Like, my uterus was so tight. I can like feel it as I talk. I'm like grabbing my belly, like, wow, I can like feel it. Like, I was just like super exhausted. My muscles were so tense. I remember calling you and we were upset. Fadwa had told us to go get some like homeopathy, which we're in like a random city. I didn't know where to find it. So we're like Googling. We went to like 2 or 3 different places, driving around trying to see who I could buy homeopathy from in a distant land.
Walking into somewhere and being like, got any arnica? They're probably like, what are you talking about?
We ended up going to like the vitamin shop, which is like so commercial, but they actually have like all this homeopathy. I'm like, okay, it works. But then my husband took me out to a nice dinner because I deserved it. I'd been through so much that day and I was so sad. But yeah, and then I remember also being at the Airbnb that night, and my mom had went with us to help with my toddler. And I was having like really intense Braxton Hicks. And I remember what they talk about, you had told me and others of like, this could also like send you into labor because it's so much like stimulation to your uterus and stuff. So I remember telling my mom and husband, I'm like, I don't think I'm going into labor. Like, I'm not trying to like scare you, but also like I'm having a lot of Braxton Hicks and that is a risk. So like, let's just think, I don't know. I think after my first experience, like with my pregnancy, I'd be like, oh, don't even think about a C-section and it won't happen. Like, don't even give it the mental energy. And then it just like freaking happened.
For sure.
That I'm like, now when I feel a little red flag, I'm just like, just so you know, we could need to prepare in this way.
There's no need to panic, but this is happening.
There is different variables that could unfold.
Which I think is wise. It's almost like you were protecting your heart and just like being prepared and realistic. I mean,
well, also like my husband and mom like aren't birth workers. Like I have to, I'm also like very deep into this work. So I have to be like, hey, this also like could happen. Just so you know, they're like, wait, what do you mean? Do you think you're going into labor? I'm like, no, I don't like think I am. I'm just saying I could.
Yeah. Feels like it.
Yeah. But I should be fine.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. Good luck. Good night. I'll let you know. It's kind of crazy, but yeah. So that night I was just kind of like feeling like all of those kind of things. But then I remember waking up Sunday morning where she was gonna try again, and that's when I was like not doing great emotionally. That's when I was crying. I was also super nauseous. I like threw up my breakfast. My husband's like, girl, you got to get it together. Like, come on, like, where's that faith? And I'm like, it's gone. Like, honestly, I guess we'll go today, but like I was not feeling it. Like I really even said out loud with my own mouth, because I mean, like you said, I mean, I'm just like going through all of my options. I said to my husband, I mean, we could also just go home and schedule surgery, you know? And he's like, like smacking me upside the head. No, he'd be mad if he heard me say that. He doesn't smack me. But he's also just like, why would you even say that? Like he like kind of had to gut check me, and he's like,
also like Mr. Positive, and so he was trying to keep you in check. That's all he was doing. He was like, we can still keep the faith. Everything's gonna be okay. But you were defeated. Yeah. That was probably like very rock bottom for you.
I was literally going to call it rock bottom. Yeah. It was like, which is every day for my whole pregnancy, and also specifically after 32 weeks when we thought, you know, she was probably going to be breech and may or may not turn. Like every day, like I said, I would go to bed and be like, she could just flip in my sleep and it would be fine. Like I had that like childlike faith literally every day. Yeah. And at this point, I'm just like, it's just not going to happen. But also, because like the other option, if she didn't flip that second day, would be planning a home birth to have her vaginally in South Florida.
Vaginally breech in South Florida.
Which is like also crazy, but like even that would be better for me than having another C-section. Once you have 2 C-sections, things just get more and more complex as far as like planning a VBAC. So I knew this was like very important, this decision. And so that's why I was like, you know, that's what I started picturing is like planning a home birth in an Airbnb, which was like looking like it could be reality. And so that's why I was like, what if we just schedule surgery? We don't have to think about any of that, trying to time when to go to South Florida. And then like even my husband's like looking around the Airbnbs like, this was actually a nice Airbnb. What if we just planned a home birth here? And I'm like, I do not want to be thinking about that right now, you know? So it was just like, it was just a lot emotionally, because I mean, if she didn't flip, the next thing I'd be doing is probably planning a home birth in South Florida. Like that was my next
And because
option.
Of your previous experience, you were very well educated on what that process of a vaginal breech birth would look like, not only for you but for baby, which is it's a heavy conversation of like, you know, breech vaginal birth is easier on your body, but it's not necessarily easier on baby. And so then it's kind of like the weight of that. Yeah. Do I really want to go forward with this? And, you know, making decisions when you're that pregnant is like already so hard, let alone like when it has to do with your birth plan. It's a very, very tough place for you to be in.
Well, and this is supposed to be like my oxytocin bubble, you know, starting around 37 weeks, you start to work less, like not make hard decisions, just kind of like take it easy. And here I am making like these really hard decisions again, which was almost like kind of PTSD style from my first birth. I'm like, my back's starting to be up against the wall. Time is not on my side right now, but it actually was. And I'd come back to reality and be like, but I'm also 37 weeks. At least we could plan ahead this time, you know? So I was, this was all
really
happening.
Laid everything down. Yeah. Everything was out of your hands and you were like, we're just going to go through with it. So you get to the office.
Yeah. So this was all Sunday morning.
Are you still like, emotional when you show up to the office though?
Yeah, I was kind of just at this point more like kind of numb, I want to say. You know, I had thrown up my breakfast. I was like,
horrific.
Like when we talk about
Cherry
rock
on
bottom.
top.
Yeah, when we talk about rock bottom, I mean, all the emotion. I had a good cry. Me and my husband were like going back and forth. I barely even wanted to show up to this appointment. I threw up. I'm like super sore. And I'm like literally in my head, the only thing I thought is, if it didn't work yesterday, why the F do I think it's going to work today?
But
like that was like 5 hours ago.
But then you were met with the sweetest, kindest midwife.
And I remember she was even like, are you feeling up for it? Like as soon as I walked in, she's like, you sure you're feeling up for this? You know? And I'm like, we drove all the way here, you know, we'll give it one last shot. And I remember like the vibes were pretty low. You know, the first day I'm like
okay,
yeah,
ultrasound
exactly. Yeah. And the first day she had like a nursing student with her. And then like, I don't know, like the vibes were just like higher and we were hopeful. This time it was like nobody else was there. That student like wasn't there that day. It was just me and my husband and Fadwa. And she just like rolled up her sleeves and like, all right, let's go for it. We did a couple inversions. To just start off, she gave me some homeopathy. So we kind of started off a little bit differently because we kind of dove right into it the first day. So this time she I feel like kind of set me up a little better because we knew like, all right, this is it. We need to give it our all.
It's like the foreplay of like an ECV. She was like, we gotta approach this differently.
Literally warm me up a bit. Foreplay, that was awesome. But yeah, so we did a quick ultrasound. Baby was still doing great, still in the right position, or the wrong position, you know, it's the same position. And so she just started doing, you know, the massage techniques. She had to see which way baby was facing, so she would see which way to turn. So she's doing all of this. I remember she actually asked Alex to go get a stool because I was on like just a table where I was like kind of reclined back like a medical table. And so it was kind of higher up. And she was like, she told my husband, if you go in the room next to this, there's a white stool right by my bag. And so my husband's like recording. You can see it's like, like we go in his pocket. And then he goes and he brings the stool back and she's like up over me, like using her body weight, you know, like crazy, working so hard.
Did you feel like it was more intense the second day?
Actually, no, I don't think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like honestly looking back now, I feel like she just created a lot of space the first day.
She set you up for success.
I guess so. I mean, I think that's just what happened, you know, like it just kind of stretched my muscles and my ligaments.
And those are really, really important things. Like, and I've only ever seen one ECV done in the hospital here in Jacksonville, but they've jumped right into it. And it's like, yeah, that's going to shock your body. I can only imagine the Braxton Hicks. The baby's going to be like, what is happening? So her doing it the first day and being like, okay, this did not work. We've got to approach this a little differently. That's like viewing you as a patient as a whole. Yeah. And she set you up for success.
Yeah. It's powerful. Yeah. So as she was going about it, I mean, that was another reason I was just feeling so distraught Sunday morning before the appointment, is because I'm like, I'm already in so much pain. I'm already having Braxton Hicks. If it didn't work yesterday when I was more relaxed and excited and hopeful, then why would it work now when I'm annoyed and emotional and sore and tense? You know, like I felt tense-ish because I was having Braxton Hicks. But yeah, she tried multiple times that day too. And the first time, like, I don't know, it all kind of runs together because like the first time that kind of turned into the second time because she just kept trying. Like it really looked like she flipped the baby. I mean, I have it on video. She takes her arm and swipes it around on my stomach and she's like, I think that was it. I was like, whoa, that was a big movement. I think that was it too. And she put the ultrasound on my belly and she's like, that's her freaking head still. And we're all like, what?
Insane.
Like if that wasn't it, then I don't know. So she's like, kind of starts trying again, you know, with my consent, but we're just like both in it. And so she's just like trying.
She was committed.
Super committed. And again, like she would get like baby's head. I was like also pushing with her to like make sure, because it's almost like my daughter like ducked under her head. It like felt like she swiped her and turned her around, but she somehow just like swiped under her arm and like kept her head up. Yeah, just kidding. So that kind of happened again the second time. She was like, oh, I think I got it. And I'm like pushing where I'm like, there's no space for her to duck under your arm. I was like decreasing the space in my uterus and pressing my own hands so that there wasn't space for my daughter to juke her out again, you know. And again, she's like, she just feels stuck right here. Like she would get her super transverse, which was like sideways and almost down around my hip, and then it was just like we couldn't quite get it. And I mean, for normal people thinking about ECV, this would probably be the time where your baby just turns and then you have that beautiful video we were talking about, and like that would be awesome. I'm kind of a complicated case, so I don't want to scare anyone out of ECV, but because of whatever's happening in my body, which I'll update y'all soon if I find out the shape of my uterus and stuff, but whatever was going on, it was just very intense. And I was like, my palms are sweating just thinking about this. Like it was really intense, and I didn't think it was working. My husband also even just like stopped recording, and you could kind of see as he stopped recording and she took her hands off my belly, we were all kind of giving up. We were just like, you know, she tried probably like a handful, like 3 to 5 times within the first time of trying on Saturday. And then this time, even though she would try a second day, she definitely went for it like 3 or 4 times. And we were checking on the baby the whole time. Everything was going great. As far as like her tolerating it well, but she took her hands off and we were all just kind of like, I don't think this is going to work. We've really given it our all. And she grabbed the ultrasound wand, put it on my belly, and somehow my daughter was head down and it worked.
Crazy.
So that's why I call it a miracle, because it makes no logical sense. The times where it looks like she actually flipped and where I felt like big movement, nothing happened. And then the time that we just were ready to give up is when it just happened. So kind of going back to what we were talking about with the emotional work, I think it was that true release that I had that got rid of that last bit of tension somewhere that I was holding on to. Maybe it was throwing up my breakfast. Like I put it all on the line, and I like had no hope left. And God was like, now I'll take over and flip. For sure.
I mean, when you called me to tell me that, I was not prepared for what you were going to say.
Did you think it was going to work the second day?
I know. When you called me before,
you're like, now I can be honest. No.
When you called me and said that you were going and you were having a hard time, and we like had the whole conversation and you know, all that stuff, I was like, man, I feel so bad for her that she has to go through this and she's not even like on board really. I mean, you of course were gonna, like, you consented, but you just emotionally were tapped out. Like you were done.
100%.
And it's so hard to feel like you have it in you to keep going when you're already down low.
It was rough.
And so I remember, crazy enough, I was going to get some tacos with my family.
Naturally.
And you called me and I was like, gosh, she's going to tell me something really sad. And I just sent my family in because I was like, I'm going to obviously be on the phone for a while. I want to like walk this through with you. And as we were pulling in, I'm like telling like them to get out of the car. My kids are like screaming. I'm like, I got to hear every word of this story. And you said that she flipped. I started sobbing, crying, because it's so crazy. Like what you were saying with the midwife too. It's like, I can attest when one of your clients that you just like love so deeply, like, and you have a passion for this job like we do, it's like a failure of your own as well. It like hurts just as bad. And it's so hard to walk with families through times like that of disappointment and just like kind of like, what the heck is going on?
Well, because there's only so much you can do.
No,
You're like,
totally.
I mean, you were also an angel. I mean, coming to my house, doing Rebozo work and spinning babies and supporting me through my whole pregnancy, but even, you know, more so at 32, 34 weeks when things, you know, the timeline was intensifying.
Definitely.
You were there for me the whole time, walking through with me after you also walked through the devastation I had after an emergency cesarean. So thanks for being my birth bestie, because it hasn't been easy.
Oh my gosh! At that point, I was like, I have to see this through. We've got to get on the other side of this. But so then you did. You had a head down baby,
and I literally didn't believe it. Like I think Fadwa was just so good at it that she obviously like really believed that she could do it. That's why she kept trying. And she even told us after, because you know you have to like monitor the baby after and do like a stress test. And she said, bring a sugary snack. You know, we want to like see different types of movement and the heart rate and all these things. And so I like brought a Rice Krispie treat. I don't know why I remember that. I just got one. It was like at Whole Foods, checking out the night before, all pissed off that it didn't work. And I'm like, this stupid Rice Krispie treat. We'll use it tomorrow, maybe, you know, like I was like so salty. But I'm just sitting there so happy eating my Rice Krispie treat. And she's like, you know, I just wanted to keep working at it because I could tell you guys really wanted it. And like when I can tell the patient is really into it and like they're going to do the hard work, I'll meet it with the hard work. Like she, you know, was just such an angel in that regard. But yeah, so I just remember, I think she just fully expected it to work. That's why she came back the second day and was like down, you know, to do all of this. And she was just like, okay, well now you can go home and plan your home birth. And she started wiping the jelly off of my belly, like the ultrasound jelly. And I remember being like, if there's still jelly on there, can I just see that one more time? She was like, what, the ultrasound? I'm like, yeah, can you just show me one more time? Like, it happened. I mean, not so fast because it was like a whole journey, but then it was just like, she flipped,
you had
boom.
also never had a head down baby before.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, so she's just like that forever now?
Yeah.
Like, she's just it. I'm like, what?
Gosh.
Like, my whole life just changed?
Yeah.
And she's like, sure, I'll show you again. And she showed us. She was like, yep, there's the head, and there it is. And you can see me, my husband's videoing. I'm like, my eyes are the size of like dinner plates. I'm like, what? I'm like in full shock. And so we're just sitting there, and she hooks me up to the stress test. I'm eating my Rice Krispie treat, and baby's looking great. I'm doing fine. She gave me like what she calls bumpers, where you use like a belly band and rolled up hand towels to like squeeze the baby and like kind of decrease space in your uterus to make sure baby wouldn't flip back, which can happen. But definitely, I wasn't super concerned about that because it's not. I've had friends who like, oh yeah, my baby flips breech and she flips back like, you know, within the same day. But my babies haven't been like flip flopping all around, so I didn't really think that, you know, with all the work it took to get her head down, that she would just flip right back. I'm like, JK. Yeah. But it was also a pretty vulnerable like place to be in because I wanted to like do everything in those like belly bands. And
you did for a long time.
Yeah, and I did. I wore them all the way home for sure because I had a long car ride home. Right. But then also like I remember coming home and being in the shower. And now I'm like 36 weeks, you know, going to be entering my birth window this week. I had a midwife appointment with our midwives here at home, which was like my 36-week appointment, I think. As soon as I got home and I was going to do an ultrasound, I'm like, I think once my midwives tell me that my baby's really head down, then I'll really believe it. And I just remember taking a shower and just feeling my like belly and my body and just being like, she's head down. For like, I just like really started to hit me. And then I remember at my midwife appointment, they're like, yeah, now we're going to schedule like your home visit and stuff. And I just literally didn't even remember that was a thing. Like it all hit me that I'm like, wait, and I do a home visit with my photographer and my doula, and like I'm planning a home birth now. Like I had like almost like you said, protected my heart and my expectations like my whole pregnancy of like, you know, that's the plan and that's what we're going to plan for. You never know what's going to happen. I like kept it open-ended.
I feel like
just
you were
in case.
Really day by day your whole pregnancy up until that point when we
even at my 20-week appointment, remember you were like asking me some hard questions. You're like, I don't remember exactly like how it went, but you could tell I was like kind of being a little more reserved. It was like I was believing for it and having the faith that it was going to happen and could happen, but also like I wanted to like protect my like heart and feelings just in case, right? You know, but so yeah, then we just started planning our home birth and it felt so like real and right, and there was really nothing else that could like go wrong, you know, like that I could plan for or foresee. Like I remember my whole pregnancy, I just said, as long as baby's in right position, like that's really the only thing. I wasn't afraid of labor. I wasn't afraid of pushing. I wasn't, you know, like there was nothing else that made me nervous. You were going to
handle whatever else came your way as long as your baby was head down.
Yeah. And now that was it. Like we crossed that bridge. For sure. And just to kind of tie it all up, we saw that double rainbow I told you about on the way down to South Florida. And then on the way home, we saw another one. And then the day of my midwife appointment that Monday, when we came back and my baby was head down, there was a double rainbow.
I mean, that's crazy.
What?
We should look up the like stats on that. Cause
well, also let me just say the night I went into labor, my brother was like, go outside. There's a double rainbow. And I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if I went into labor? Which is crazy. But I'm like, that'd be wild. I was only 39 plus 2. Yeah. And, so
that's for another story for another day though. Well, so I think you should wrap this up by telling us, because you've really walked through both variations of having a breech baby, what based off of you could do, but based off of both of your experiences, like what's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who finds out that their baby is breech and they are, you know, trying to stay positive and hopeful? Like what advice would you give them?
Really, I mean, it's tough because that's the hardest part, is wanting to do all the things without being stressed. And you really just have to get to that moment of like full surrender, which you have to do all the things too. My number one recommendation is go to the chiropractor, get a massage, do CST, but it's like, all of that really doesn't matter if you're still tense, if you're still holding on to things, and if you're just honestly gripping control. That's like really what the journey I think God was taking me on, is like letting go of control. And through this whole process of like finding out she was breech earlier on and like having faith, I had read a book called The Circle Maker, and it's talking about like praying in circles around things. There's a lot of instances where people in the Bible like pray in circles around things. And so my husband and I like held hands with our 2-year-old daughter and walked around our house every single day and just prayed and let go of control and just released, you know, anything we were gripping onto as far as that goes, and just really truly had faith and trusted God. So I guess that would be my number one, you know, kind of piece of advice, because whether you know, pray and have like a great relationship with God where it's like super intimate and stuff or not, like holding on to control yourself is only going to get you so far, and like truly releasing to like God's plan and like how it's just going to unfold is really the only way. Because we prayed literally every day. So just kind of like having that ultimate surrender, whether it is emotionally or physically, like maybe you actually just like have tension in your body because you're gripping control so tightly. I actually even journaled after, you know, my baby flipped and everything. I had journaled and said that even the form of like prayer and walking in circles, I felt like was kind of a way of me trying to control it. Like, you know, like me performing and
to get ahead of it,
making sure I showed up every day to pray. Like I was still trying to control. So that's why God took me to the absolute edge of like ECV not working. Like that was, I thought, like my last ticket, and then it didn't work. And God's like, I'm still gonna humble you. Like you still have a little humbling to do because you're still gripping so tightly.
Even the humbling of thinking that it worked. On that second to last try. And then being let down again of like this, it didn't work. I mean, you had to go through all of the things physically, emotionally, spiritually. You walked through it all. I
think that's why it's so hard when sometimes people are like, oh, my baby's breech, and someone's like, oh, try putting an ice pack on the top. It's like, stuff like that can work and can encourage baby to flip, but it's a lot deeper than that. It takes a really deep, vulnerable release.
Everyone's body is different. Everyone's situation and story is different. So it definitely takes a lot.
And I think, you know, ultimately I always say just having the right people around you. I mean, my birth team, I feel like almost like expanded this time because I have the best midwives in the world, the best doula in the world as you, but also, you know, including, I forgot to mention pelvic floor therapy was another thing I did. I wanted to check that box as well. Oh, man, I feel bad. I totally forgot to like give her a shout out this whole time until the very end. But like pelvic floor therapy was definitely super helpful. Just any type of internal, external release she was doing. Like I checked all of the boxes. So I added more people to my birth team and did literally everything. But ultimately it was the emotional release and just surrender that actually flipped the baby. So that would be my, you know, I guess main piece of advice is just, you have to be at the end of yourself. For sure. You can try all the things, but ultimately,
which I think can also translate into birth just as a whole, but specifically with like malpositioning and a breech baby, it takes you to the ends and you have to navigate it.
You have to have the right people around you to help you navigate it. So shout out to everyone that I've mentioned in this, like, you know, episode with FADWA, pelvic floor therapists, our chiropractors at Slancha, the Gonstead like method, whatever they do, it's a miracle. I don't know. It all works together. The body work, the massages, the acupuncture. I mean, everything we've tried, it all like comes together.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's a journey. Good luck.
It's a journey. Yeah. Hopefully people were able to pick little bits and pieces out of this and apply it to themselves if they're in this situation. But I think that ultimately what we wanted everybody to know from this was that birth is a variation of normal, and you have way more options out there than just having a C-section, and it includes getting educated and prepared and surrendering to it all.
Because breech vaginal birth is, like you said, a variation of normal, and it can happen, but it can be riskier. You have to be with the right people, so it's really tough to navigate. So having the right people around you, praying every day, you know, like just doing all the spiritual, mental, physical work. It's a package deal. You got to do it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're here on the other side of it. And then I'll also tell my birth story and go into detail. But I did have a vaginal birth at home, which was a major win. Praise God.
Yes.
It's just like everything we were believing for. So feeling super grateful. It was a journey, but it was worth it.
Yes, for sure.